everybody. Welcome to another episode of Over This Should podcast, where we ditch the shoulds and expectations put on our lives so we can live a life we truly love. Today, I am thrilled and excited to let you know that we have Brigette Sobus with us. She's the visionary leader behind Power and Joy Coaching Academy. Brigitte's a dynamic coach and a speaker who's dedicated her career to helping individuals unleash their true potential and transform their lives. With her innovative coaching programs and breakthrough sessions, Brigette empowers her clients to overcome negative emotions and achieve personal and professional success. Welcome to the show, Brigette.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Pamela. I do love this conversation because also I work with a lot of women, especially women entrepreneurs that are people pleasers, and that I hear the word should come out of their mouth a lot.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like every time you say should, that's like an automatic stop moment to figure out why you think you should be doing something.
Yeah. And I even experienced being a people pleaser because I'm a recovered people pleaser myself, with getting triggered by when other people would should on me. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you should do this. You should have done that. Oh, so other people should other people a lot besides shoulding yourself.
Talk to me then about how you've recovered from people pleasing and how you've gained the skills you need to not let people shit on you.
Yeah, I would love to share about that because I've been an entrepreneur. Gosh, now it's going over 19 years, which is crazy to say. But my first business was a hair salon. I was working in a hair salon as a master colorist, making a six-figure income. And I thought, if this person can run a business, so can I, because it was pretty dysfunctional at the time. And the opportunity presented itself, and then I bought it. And then I realized I became the dysfunction because I had no idea how to run a business either, and I lost my six-figure paycheck. So luckily, somebody introduced me to a coaching and consulting company, and I had no idea coaching and consulting companies what they were even back in, this was in 2005. So I hired my first coach, and by working with my coach, I completely transformed my business. I changed my life. I started growing the business by 30-40%. I was able to cry less, holding a team meeting, which was cool. And then I wanted to do it for other people. So I went down the track of becoming a trainer in front of a room. I became a certified coach. And actually, it's funny because I became a certified life coach in the middle of going through a really nasty divorce. So for you listening out there, if you ever thought to yourself, oh, I want to become a life coach, but I have to get my own life together, there's no better time to become a life coach. So even like I would have lots of success, and definitely my life would transform. And I would always have a challenge with battling negative thought patterns and negative emotions. I'll be honest with you, I had very strong systems and structures in my hair salon that supported me on having lots of success, because I could always fall back to, well, these are the policies and procedures. This is how we could do things around here. And then I would still have that internal battle with like feeling bad. I had a lot of guilt. Like I did have a hard time saying no to people. When someone was upset or mad at me, I would bend over backwards to make them happy, and I was always suffering. And I had this running joke, which everyone's free and clear of, that I would wish I could get a lobotomy so I could disconnect from my negative thought patterns and negative emotions. So throughout my journey, I went through that divorce. I got breast cancer for the first time. I found myself in $1.3 million of personal debt because of the divorce. And I decided to buy my own business back from the bankruptcy because my business was profitable. It was my personal life that was in so much debt. And that's a whole nother story because my ex was unfortunately a drug addict, and he has since passed. So I really, really then struggled with negative thought patterns and negative thinking. And I decided to finally sell the salon. And then I had always heard of NLP, but I didn't really know what it was. I had one of my mentors would say, and I'm a master of NLP. after I sold the salon during the pandemic, I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life next? So I started getting into therapy. I hired a coach again, and I started getting back on track. And then I was like, I'm going to get certified in NLP. And they were like, oh, you're going to learn hypnosis and timeline therapy. And I was thought at the time, I'm like, hypnosis sounds really weird. And I don't even know what NLP is. But I was like, all right, I like this company. So I signed up. Oh my gosh, I finally had this breakthrough in this area of life. And then I would get re-triggered over and over again. And it was like a rubber band that kept snapping back
Mhm.
constantly. And then I was halfway through my program and I was like, oh my gosh, do I not feel that way anymore? Do I not believe that about myself? Like the negative things? And I was like, this is it. I know what I'm meant to do in this world. And I did a deep dive and I got my board certifications to become a trainer. And I like within 6 months launched Power and Joy Coaching Academy. So those are the tools that have like made the most profound difference in my mental health.
That's amazing. I know without a doubt there are people listening to this who are currently struggling with that negative inner critic. What are some tools and techniques you could walk us through that you deployed or you currently deploy with clients that will get you to recognize patterns?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, so I love educating people and sharing with them that 95, they're even saying 97% of our behaviors and decision making are unconscious. Like they're so automatic. Like I mean, and then usually it's anywhere from like 2 to 6 seconds later, you actually consciously aware, you become aware of what you just either said or did. So I definitely like to bring that awareness. So you can then become more consciously aware of your patterns, your decision making, things that may come out of your mouth with communication. So first and foremost, without doing the trance work, like the hypnosis work, is pausing. There's so much power in pausing and stopping and actually taking a step back and like breathing through what's happening and just having that awareness. And then really thinking like, okay, so what is this? What is this trigger? What does this really mean? What do I really want to be saying? So that's one thing that I start teaching my clients and students to do to have more conscious awareness of their own patterns.
So when you feel a negative thought creep up, just pause. And then as you have time, maybe question where that thought's coming from or what triggered that thought in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times our unconscious mind is designed to protect us.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, though, all that programming, the jargon word of programming, happened between the ages of 0 to 7. Our unconscious minds are like uncritical little sponges, gathering all the attitudes, the belief systems of everyone around us. I mean, we could have the most amazing upbringing and parents doing the best that they can, and a child could have a not good run-in with I don't know, a teacher or I don't know, a clerk at a grocery store. And then so these belief systems get installed in our unconscious mind and they come up, and that's where that negative thought thinking can occur. It's actually once that negative thought thinking starts happening, it's like really questioning it. Is it a fact? Is it true? And then it is reframing and retraining your brain to think a different way. Or you
Right.
could say quote unquote reprogramming or rewiring. I know like I've seen a lot of people say rewire, reprogram.
It's interesting that you talk about your upbringing could be ideal, fine, and then somebody on the periphery says something that is negative towards you. And we know that the human brain has this bias to negativity. I was a high achieving student, and so I'm certain if I stopped and thought about teachers who said, "Great job, good job, this paper was well done," there would be instances, but those aren't the instances that I remember. I remember always struggling with math and having to stay after school with my teacher to get extra help because I wanted to keep an A in the class. And I remember being told, it's okay. Girls just struggle with math more than boys. And for
Oh,
whatever reason, that has stuck with me my whole life. Hearing that as a younger person, that there might be something that because of my gender, I'm not as good at or predisposed to. It was girls are good at English and boys are better at math kind of deal. And
Yeah.
so those things, so I'm always in the back of my mind, well, I'm never going to be good at math. I can't be good at math. I'm a girl. Oh man, just trying to fight against those stereotypes that are planted. And I don't think it was intentional. I know that teacher had the best of intention. They were trying to probably encourage me that it would be fine. It's just a little bit harder in some instances, but those words that people say to you can have power over you until you decide that they are actually not fact and they aren't relevant and they don't get to dictate how you live your life.
Yes, I love everything you just said.
Yay. Okay, I have done NLP studies as well, and I find it really interesting. I talk about rewiring the brain. What I have not delved into is the hypnosis part. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so the hypnosis is, I mean, the way I use hypnosis is it's so funny. It's like I do have a like I have like I teach my students how to use a pendulum. So it's not like the pendulum and no, it's nothing like that. And it is not the way I use it, it is not about you know, going back into the past and reliving things or discovering things that you forgot or going to a traumatic event. It's nothing like that. It's not like the movies. And it is not mind control. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Like as a hypnosis practitioner, I'm a catalyst for my client. So what hypnosis helps with is the unconscious mind does like repetition. And when you take someone down into trance and you can support them on reprogramming, like installing um, positive qualities and characteristics they would know about themselves, help with behavior change. So a lot of when I teach hypnosis to my students, a lot of people like to use it to help someone overcome smoking, to become a non-smoker, to lose weight, to be more proactive on projects that they want to take on, have a healthier mindset, making your mind actually your best friend. So it really helps reinstall positive thought patterns in there.
So when you're working with somebody, and we'll just use the negative talk, that's something they're battling, and they come to you and they want to go through the hypnosis and they want to be reprogrammed. What are the programs that you install for somebody who is battling that negative voice?
Yeah, so my go-to technique actually is timeline therapy. And timeline therapy is a hybrid technique of NLP and hypnosis. So what I do is let's just say if somebody comes to, and I'm not good enough is actually like the overarching limiting belief.
Yeah.
So I drill down. The most common limiting beliefs I find that working with my clients are I don't deserve it. I'm undeserving. I'm irresponsible. I'm a failure, which you guys are all free and clear of that you're listening to this. And so like let's just say someone comes to me and they're one of their limiting beliefs is they're a failure or they have fear of success.
Mhm.
So timeline therapy, the best way I love to describe it is that have you seen the movie Scrooge?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how he floated out of his body and he went to the past and he watched his past self.
Mhm.
He didn't become his past self. He just watched it. And then he got all these new awarenesses and learnings, positive learnings. And then he came back and then he changed the trajectory of his life. Like he became very happy and joyful and then grateful.
Mhm.
So when I'm taking someone through timeline therapy, I ask them to ask their unconscious mind, like, what is the root cause, the first event, which when disconnected is going to cause the problem to disappear? And then like I say, is it before, during, or after your birth? So I've had people go in the womb. I've had people go past lives, generationally. And I tell them, I'm zero interest in what happened. Like, I don't need to know the details because I don't want my clients to associate into the event. I don't want them to relive it. It's so different than talk therapy. I'm looking for what are the negative emotions that they continue to hold on to that no longer serve them, or the limiting decisions that were made because of that event. So I work with women that, unfortunately have had massive sexual trauma and sexual abuse that have success those traumatic events by doing these techniques with them. So when I have them back there in their unconscious mind at that root cause, they're getting positive learnings, like positive qualities and characteristics they know about themselves. Like they're strong, they're capable, they're beautiful, they have wisdom, whatever. I mean, usually my clients have anywhere from 15 to 30 different positive learnings about themselves. And then when they're coming back, I'm repeating them back to them. And then in the future, what I'll do is I'll do like a hypnotic session with them, where that I'm taking them into trance, and it could take anywhere from 10 to 15, an hour long. It depends. So that I'm actually, when they're in trance, I'm actually repeating their learnings back to them, or I'm repeating different behavior changes that they want to have. Like when you go and go out for dinner, how much to eat and when to stop. You know that you naturally want to eat things that are healthy and good for you. Like that just came out of the fly, but stuff like that. So when I take them down into trance, I'm repeating like positive things. And another thing that I work with all my clients is that I say, and this is a really great thing for everyone listening too, like write this down so you can have more rapport with your unconscious. You can say, "Dear unconscious mind, I only accept things that are good, healthy, and positive for me. And I reject, delete, and cancel all that is not." So you really start getting rapport with your unconscious. So
With timeline therapy for something that is traumatic, how do you keep people separate? How do you create the space for them to be an observer instead of back in the body?
yeah, so I take them through a meditation process first. So I'm grounding and connecting them to source, whatever someone's definition of source is. I've worked with all different types of religions. And then I'm having them ground into Mother Earth. Like, so I do this very simple meditation technique. And then I also teach my clients on how to connect with their intuition. So they're connecting with their intuition more. And I train my clients how to get into their timeline before I actually take them into that. And I'm very clear with them that this is not talk therapy. I'm very blunt. I said, listen, I don't care about the details of the event. I care, but I don't care, because I care about you getting your learnings and getting what you need so you can release the things that are no longer serving you. Like whatever, the fear, the anger, the rage, the the hurt, the sadness. So that when they come back, I actually say, so now if you think about that event, how is it now? I love seeing looks on their faces because they're like, I mean, I know I was angry and I don't feel that anymore. I'm like, is it gone? Is it 100% gone? I tell someone, even if it's like 1% still there, we just haven't gone back far enough and you haven't gotten enough learnings. That's it. This work is designed to let go of negative emotions and limiting beliefs that no longer serve us, right? Like I used to have, on a scale of 1 to 100, I used to have 150 would be anxiety. So I actually will help women retrain their nervous system. So I used to be living in anxiety all the
Yeah.
time because your nervous system, unfortunately, gets used to feeling certain ways. And when it doesn't feel a certain way, it almost like it wants to be like, whoa, what's happening over here? So sometimes we have to really work on retraining our nervous system. So when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, it is natural to feel all. This isn't about being like, oh my gosh, I'm a happy, joyful robot always. Like you're just in a state of like pure bliss every second of your
Right.
life. But it is about living more in those high frequency emotions and less in the negative ones. And if you feel some hurt, if you feel some anger, it's letting your body naturally process through it. We all deserve to feel our feelings.
Yeah. I want to just back up for a second. So for part of the clearing out that you do, one of the things that I heard you say is before you take anybody into a trance or before anybody can start making some of those changes, they need to collect positive learnings. Is that true? You do the positive learnings part first?
I do trauma releases, and I actually will have them consciously start getting their positive learnings. And then I'll take them into the release process, which is through the timeline therapy and some other energy work that I do. But when they're in their timeline, when they're in the light, in a very light trance. You're still very aware, but then they're getting the unconscious learnings while they're in the timeline process. So it's a both and. So, because what I'm looking for is to have congruency with both conscious and unconscious mind.
That makes sense. So that one, and that's why I was wondering if it's positive learnings were theirs before you put them in trance. I think your mind would be like, I would never say that. That isn't my words if it was just you, Brigette, telling them certain things. So I think for the individual to curate some of those positive learnings themselves, it can feel more believable. There's been so many
Yeah.
times in my life where I try to jump right to a positive mindset. Like I remember this time very clearly, like I hated what I was doing. And I was trying to tell myself, you're so lucky you have a job. So many people don't have a job. This is great for you. Look at all the growth you've had. Like I'm trying to gratitude myself into positivity and it just wasn't working. So I decided to just go to neutral. And that's one of the things I've learned about myself. I can fake happy. Look, we're women, we fake a lot of stuff. I can
Oh,
fake happy really well, but doesn't serve me in the long run. So sometimes I have to get to the neutral place
yeah.
before I can really believe there's the positive side of it. But I think that your words, those being your own words, really help. So I can't say, I love my job, but I can say, today is going to be a good day. These are the three things I'm going to accomplish. And that
Yeah.
could be just the neutrality of that
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah, I mean, same thing, like Pamela, for me, like I would, before I learned about the unconscious mind and learned NLP and hypnosis work, I would really try hard to say positive affirmations. I'd be like, I would look in the mirror and be like, you're beautiful, you're amazing. And like, I would kept getting sabotaged by the negative thought pattern. And the
Yes.
missing was I wasn't doing the unconscious work. It was like pure, that this is my belief system. It was just the pure conscious coaching, which I know conscious coaching is very powerful. I mean, I'm accredited with the International Coaching Federation, but I personally, my personal belief system is there's so much more power when you're working with the unconscious mind. So then your conscious mind and your unconscious mind become congruent and they're on the same page. I love using this analogy. So if you think about an elephant, okay, there's an elephant and the elephant is your unconscious mind. Okay, and then you're sitting on top of the elephant and your conscious mind. All right. So now conscious mind is like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go start this business. I'm gonna go make $500,000 a year. I'm gonna go do all this. Let's go, elephant. And elephant's like, hell no, Bridget. What if you fail? What if people judge you? What if you fall on your face? Oh my gosh, what if you get hurt? What if someone makes you mad? We're not doing this. And your elephant throws you off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like to reprogram and retrain elephants. So the elephant's like, oh my gosh, yes, we could do this. Oh my gosh, it'll be so amazing. Yes, we can be successful. Yeah, you're smart enough.
It's a fun analogy.
Yeah.
Because we use the word reprogramming so frequently when we talk about unconscious, conscious, the brain, I do think about my brain like a computer. And I often will think about the unconscious piece being all the programs that are running that you don't know are running.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, like your computer is not performing optimally, or it's slowed down, or something's going on. You have to go to the task manager and you have to be like, this thing's running in the background in task, right? You have to
Uh-huh.
make sure that you are doing what you can to bring to the surface the things that are running behind the scenes that might be slowing you down or holding you back in some way.
Yeah.
So I really look at it that way. It's so, to your point earlier about the triggers, what I know to be true is with the healing, with the work, I can still be triggered and brought back into a shame spiral or imposter syndrome or not feeling good enough or not feeling like I deserve something. And so it's really just critically important to recognize when you start to feel that trigger, to your point earlier, pause. What
Hmm.
is bringing this up for you? Is it true? Could it be something different? And how do you want to respond? Because all that matters to me at this moment of my life is how I react and respond to things, because
Hmm.
that's shaping who I am today, how people see me, and who I'm going to be. And I think it's so important for us to be able to just pay attention to those inner
Yes.
cues and the tension in our body and the patterning of our heart or the tightness of our stomach or whatever that might feel like. So we know something is happening unconsciously that might accidentally come out of me verbally that I don't want to say to myself or to somebody else.
So another thing with language, like, when I ask somebody a lot of the times, like, well, what do you want? And most of the time, people are sharing with me all the things they don't want. So the unconscious mind doesn't process a direct negative, right? So, like, if I say, do not think about a purple pig, do not think about a blue tree, do not think about your nose, you can't almost not think about it.
Mhm.
So when you're focusing on what you don't want, consider your unconscious mind is actually thinking you want that. Like, how many of you know someone in your life that continuously dates the type of person they don't want? Because that's all they talk about. Like the
Yeah.
same, they're dating, like they're going from the same whether it's a man or a woman, like over and over again. They're kind of having the same, negative personality traits that you're not interested in, but you focus on that, so you keep attracting more of it. So we have to focus on what we want, like what's a towards motivation. What are the things that are going to make us joy? So that's a simple thing. Well, it sounds simple, but I'm telling you, I could coach someone and I'm literally coaching them and I'll be like, um, I'm going to repeat back what you just said. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're reframe that. What do you want instead? So it's super powerful to focus on what you want say it in a positive statement.
I totally agree with that. And our words have so much power. I have a client right now, and the person's absolutely amazing, successful, great human being. And I think they hold themselves to such an unreasonably high standard. I
Yeah.
hold myself to a high standard, but there's an unreasonable high standard where you
Yeah.
just cannot achieve it. And they are very fearful of becoming an asshole. If I have to make this move, I'm going to
Mhm.
be an asshole. Like they're really worried about how people are going to perceive them as just a jerk or a whatever. And I could not get this person to get to, what do you want? How do you want to be seen? What do you want in a year? What do you want for yourself and your company in 3 years? And so I asked him, what is everything you don't want? What is everything you don't
Mhm.
want to be and you don't want to have said about you and you don't want to think about yourself? And we just went through the list of what that person doesn't want, because on the other side of what you don't want is usually what you do. So now
Yeah.
we can take all of that narrative of all the things you don't want, because that's what's just living rent free in your head. I don't want to be
Yeah.
unhappy. I don't want to be undeserving. But in
Mhm.
order to get clearer on what you want, sometimes I think you do have to work through the don't wants and just
Yeah.
look for the reverse of those.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Personally, I know that for myself, but I work with a lot of very successful women entrepreneurs that are, $2 million plus that like they're really great at hiding things. Like I even back when I was at the height of my success owning my salon, I was like owning my salon and I was also doing coaching consulting work in the salon industry, bringing in over 1.3 million revenue in sales, and it still wasn't good enough. And
Mhm.
at the time, I was so amazing at hiding how I really felt inside,
Yeah.
you know?
We hide our feelings because we think there's a certain way we need to show up in the world to be palatable for people instead of just letting ourselves feel our feelings. A
Yeah.
lot of women I work with too, and myself, we hide our success because we don't want to emasculate our partner in any kind of way. We hide our success because we don't want to be perceived as hoity-toity or too ambitious. Um, we don't want to have people say to us, around us, or about us that we've slept our way to the top. We can't possibly be that smart, or just the plethora of things I've heard said about women. So I think a lot of us tuck these great, wonderful, like light beaming things about ourselves away and make them small so we don't intimidate or threaten anybody else, while also always smiling and being happy and grateful
Yeah.
because there's really no other emotion. Otherwise, you are probably an obnoxious bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of people dim their light down
Mm-hmm.
in service of others. Like I know, have you read the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
No.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I recommend it to all my clients and students. It really, he talks about the stuff we're talking about today, like brilliantly as well, and gives other perspectives on it. But how like you even children growing up, like, like don't shine too much because you might make your sibling feel bad type of stuff. So then, children grow up feeling like they can't shine because they'll make others feel bad.
Yeah, all the little areas in our lives where we've been told to be a certain way. And those are the shoulds. And I speak on behalf of women because that's how I grew up and that's what I recognize and experienced. But we do the same thing to our boys. So we tell our girls to be caretakers and nurturing, and the gifts that they get when they're little are brooms and baby dolls and strollers to take care of. And the things that our boys get are tool like hammers and trucks. And like they're
Yeah.
taught to be like vivacious and fun and crash the trucks together, and but not to be too emotional, to be a tough guy. And we just
Mhm.
program our children at a young age, and boys have a certain set of behaviors and girls do. And so for as much as I lament about the small, humble, and accommodating training that we get, they get stuff down all your emotions. It's okay to be angry, be the provider, you are the man. And that doesn't
Mhm.
work for every individual, does it? But we don't honor that. So those are those unconscious things you have to uncover.
I agree. I agree.
All right, it's the end of my TED talk. No, I'm just kidding.
I loved it. It was amazing.
How do you describe the unconscious mind for those who are curious about what does it mean? What is it?
I guess I like to use even the iceberg analogy, right? Like the tip of the top of the iceberg is conscious, and the other 90% is the unconscious. Like it's the domain of our emotions. It's where our values, our belief systems, our attitudes, it's habitual. It's where all of our habits are created. So, when you're working on changing a habit, statistically, you got to do something at least 21 days in a row minimum to have that new habit installed. But if when you're working with doing like hypnosis and trance work, that change work can happen even faster. But the unconscious mind loves repetition. It acts like a 4 or 5 little brother or sister that wants to serve, so it enjoys serving. So that's why it's important to, with your language and how you're talking to yourself. It does take things personally. It's also like that whole Carl Jung's like perception is projection. We're seeing through we're seeing through our eyes. So we're seeing our reality like based on our individual belief systems and
Right.
attitudes and things. I like to say, like, if you see something amazing in somebody else, that means that you have that inside you too. And you can actually model that person and, bring out what's inside of you to do those things. So, and if you're being triggered by somebody else, that's just for me, that's the unconscious mind's way of saying, like, hey, here you go. You need to heal something. That's like maybe heal the inner child or the inner critic or the inner ego. There's something in there to heal so that you can relate to things differently. Like so when you're doing the inner healing work, and let's just say somebody's triggering you a lot, like when you do that inner work, either a couple of things can happen. Like the person kind of goes out of your life and you love them from afar, or they become like the invasion of the body snatchers. You completely relate to them in a different way. Or you are actually, your behaviors and how you're reacting is completely starting to change. Like that person can act however they are, and then you are just, all right, well, that's just, how they are, versus like getting all upset or mad or becoming a meaning-making machine out of somebody else's behaviors. So those are a lot of the and the unconscious mind does repress certain memories for protection, but when I'm doing healing work with even myself or with my clients, like if a memory does present itself, I'm like, okay, so your unconscious mind is actually saying to you, like, hey, we're ready to heal this. And with the taking things personally, it takes a lot for me to call somebody a name these days. I don't want my unconscious mind thinking I'm talking to myself. So I really have, if I'm really like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call that person something, I'm like, unconscious mind, you reject that. Like going back to the dear unconscious mind, only accept things that are positive, healthy, and good for you, and reject, delete, and cancel all that is not.
Oh, that's much better. I'm just like, you know what? They don't deserve my time or energy, so I'm not going to give them any bad words or any bad names because they don't deserve it. I have a question about the trauma pieces of the work you do. I'm circling drain on this one. As somebody who had a really traumatic childhood and definitely has most of those things locked down into some vault somewhere, I only remember glimmers of things. When you are doing that work, how do you help people know what's real and if they should delve deeper and unlock things or just literally stay on the outside and walk through the feelings and trying to change the feelings of the event that they remember?
Yeah, it's a good question because I again, the way I have a system and a process of how I question and ask questions and ask about, so what were the limiting beliefs? What were the negative thoughts? I'll do perception as projection on either an event or a person, and I'm like, what are the negative qualities and characteristics? So I am digging out things that way. And I'll just say to them, ask your unconscious mind the first time you ever felt or experienced that. And I'm like, I don't want to know the details. Like, don't tell me, oh, and then this person came into the room and blah, 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 whatever happened. Like, it is zero about that. I'm just so very straight with my clients that it is so different than talk therapy, and that it is in a safe environment. And I do a lot of meditation work with my clients so that they're prepared to know that they're fully safe, they're fully protected, they're fully loved during all the releasing process. So I do a lot of meditation work and grounding and connecting with
What
them.
in the practice when you're doing timeline therapy or whatever that might look like, from when somebody starts working with you to when they feel like they have a release of whatever the emotion, the negative belief is, what is that timeline? Because it seems like that's a lot of work. So how long does it take you to go from new client to trauma released?
Yeah, so I have a couple different ways that I'll work with someone. So I'll do either an 8 to 12 hour online um breakthrough session where I first start doing like I ask somebody questions. I was actually working with somebody yesterday. She's like, 2 hours of asking me questions. I'm like, so I have a way of like asking conscious and unconscious questions. So I'm getting what the things that are like self-sabotaging them are. And then I start doing the releasing after the 2 hours. So depending on what they are, if I do a trauma release, that sometimes is a 3 hour process, where I'm asking questions. And then I'm also getting conscious learnings and then taking them through the trance and hypnosis techniques. So I have 8 to 12 hour sessions with people that are online, and I do them within 1 to 2 1 to 2 weeks of time. So I'm usually doing like 4 2-hour sessions, or I meet with people in person. And it's like an identity shift retreat. And I'll work with someone for 3 days in a row, doing all the things, bringing all the energy work and timeline therapy, hypnosis. I'm certified in Reiki, and it's like a bunch of modalities. I do customize a lot of the things, and things can happen really fast. Like I was working with a client, one of my students that has taken my certification, and I did an 8-hour breakthrough session with her over the summer when she wanted to work on money. And during her process, she had started talking about her divorce. And I was like, I recommend, I said, I think you would actually be a good idea if we did a trauma release around your divorce. And she's like, well, that happened like 23 years ago. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, okay. So we did a trauma release around that. And like, I think it was like 2 weeks later. And she's like, I don't know where you're at in the country because I travel a lot. 'Cause, I've been living a nomad lifestyle. And she's like, I have to give you some feedback. She's like, her ex used to trigger the heck out of her. And she goes, I was actually able to spend a full day with my ex, my children, and my grandchildren. And we were just people being people. It was the most beautiful day I'd ever had in his presence. So this stuff happens pretty rapid. It's like quantum leap stuff.
That's a heck of a testimonial.
Yeah, I actually have it on video. I have a
Oh,
video
that's
testimonial
awesome.
too.
Okay, the last question I like to ask every guest is, what's your favorite quote these days?
I love one of my favorites is like by Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
I love it. That's a great way to end this episode. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Brigette.
Oh, my pleasure, Pamela. It was awesome.